Hi everyone, welcome to DT's Premiere where technical drawing is made simple. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to support the channel and help reach more students. Let's
We know
begin.
what an angle is and what the different types of angles are. We're going to learn the concept of angles. All right. So how can we construct these angles without even thinking about just drawing two lines together and putting an angle there? First and foremost, we need to know the base angles. This is what we call a protractor, and it is used to measure angles. But what people do not know, or what a lot of us don't know, is we can use these angles to identify the different types of angles, where they are located and their opposites. I usually encourage my students to look at their protractors, look at the base angles that you know how to construct, or the angles that you have to bisect to attain, and look what the opposite is. And with that, they will know how to construct the opposite angle without me even having to demonstrate how to do so. All right, so we're going to learn how to do that. It sounds a bit much right now, but I guarantee you that if you just listen, practice, you'll get it. All right, so first and foremost, we need to identify where zero is, and we said it's on the right side. So this is where zero is located. All right, now if we want to go from 0 to 10, we're going up in this direction. So 0 to 10. Now we know that a straight angle is a straight line. So look at this now. So 0 is on this side, and we go to the midpoint, and this point is our vertex. And then we go all the way over to 180. So this is our straight angle. All right. So this is our first angle that we're going to establish, which is a straight angle. So let me just get into that now. So get your ruler. All right. And we're going to draw a 5 centimeter line. So from going to be a light line from 0 to 5. And now, usually I would tell my students you do not have to use a midpoint, but if you want to, you can. You're going to put a point on the line, all right, and I'm going to put it in the middle. I'm just estimating at this point, right there. This is my vertex. So this is where my 0 line is. So I would have 0 right here. And on this side, I would have 180. So this is our straight angle. So you would get your compass, all right? And you're going to mimic the protractor, all right? What do I mean by that? So let me show you the protractor again. So if you look closely, your protractor has it has a straight line, right? From 0 to 180. And the vertex would be here where they meet. But it has a small semicircle. And from this semicircle, you'll see every other angle being stemmed or created. All right? It's the same concept. So now that we know that this is a straight angle, you can just measure it to ensure that it is straight. And you know the 0 has to be aligned with the 0, and the 180 has to be aligned with the 180. The vertex is in the middle, and the semicircle. So let us now draw the semicircle. So we are putting our protractor one side, getting our compass, because this is what we use to draw our clean semicircles. And you're just going to close it at a distance that is not too wide, not too small, and we say this is a convenient radius. All right, close it. And then usually I tell my students we're going to swing from slightly under the line back to under the other side, so it's exactly where it's supposed to be. All right, just like that. So if you look at the protractor again, you have your straight line, and now you have your semicircle. So this is what we will use to construct all other angles. So let me just do that again. All right. So let's do that again. You get your ruler. We draw our 5 centimeter line lightly. So practice along with me. All right. Usually we would label AB, but we're not doing that because we're learning the concept. You have 0 on this side, 180 on this side. But in order for this to be considered an angle, we need to have a vertex. And this vertex is the point where both arms, arm 1 and arm 2 meet. So they meet at this point. Then now we need our little semicircle. So we're going to move our compass to the vertex and we're opening to a convenient radius, meaning not too wide and not too small. All right. And then we go from slightly underneath just to ensure it's accurate. Let me use very light lines and I go from under. Let me do that again. Slightly under and go back slightly under. So I'm taking my time. So now that we have practiced that twice, this should not be an issue for you. You should be able to do this basic 180-degree angle. Now, from this 180-degree angle, we can construct a 60-degree angle. And this angle will be constructed perfect at all times if you follow all the steps that I'm going to give to you. So after you construct this 180-degree angle, right? And you construct your semicircle. Whatever radius your compass is, you keep that radius, meaning you're not going to open your compass any wider and you're not going to close it. And if it shifts, you need to get it back to this exact radius. So if you trace over the semicircle, it's supposed to be the exact same. All right. Now, before we get into it, and we know that that's supposed to be the same radius, we need to label these points. So I'm going to label this point A and this point B. And the points I'm talking about are here and here. So to get our 60-degree angle, we need to come from 0 and go up. All right? Which means that we're going to place our compass point at B. So our compass point is placed at B with the same radius, and then all we're going to do is to cut our semicircle. When you cut your semicircle, this is how you construct your 60-degree angle. So at this point now, you're going to draw your line through where your semicircle has been intersected by this little arc. So you get your ruler, turn your ruler how it's supposed to be turned, and you ensure that it is going from the vertex, all right, through the point where it intersects. And you're using light lines, all right? And this is now your 60-degree angle. It's slightly off, so let me just fix it a little bit. All right, 60-degree. So this is going to be 60-degree at all times. And I tell my students, put your 60-degree at the end of the line. So if you have to derive any angle from this, it does not interfere with it. So let's practice that again. So let's practice again. So get your compass, all right? You're going to scribe your arc. Notice I'm going from the other side. It doesn't matter. Slightly under, go back to under. Let me do that again and let me take my time this time. Under to under. Then keeping the same radius. I don't change it. I don't open it. I don't close it. I put it at point B. And then I'm going to scribe and cut the semicircle. Where we cut the semicircle, this is going to be our 60-degree. So the concept is to always keep the same radius as the semicircle. And you just draw your line through this point, and you're right here, 60 degree. So this is how you get 60 degree at all times. Now, if you know how to get your 60 degree angle, you know how to get the opposite of 60 degree. But how do you know what the opposite is? Simple, you take out the protractor, you look at the protractor, and we're going from 0 to 60. And we can also measure 60 degree to ensure that it's actually 60. Mine is way off. Just bear with me. All right. But when you draw it, it's going to be more accurate. All right. Now that we know our 60 degree is right here, there is a figure above it, and this figure is telling us that this is the opposite. So 60 degree is the original angle when you're on the left side, meaning less than 90. So everything that is less than 90 here is an acute angle, and 60 degree is less than 90, which means that it's on this side, and the opposite is 120. But how is the opposite on the same side as 60? Now, this is where we're going to observe the protractor. All right? Observe the protractor. There's another 120 that is located on the opposite side. All right? And this is the opposite side of 90. So 120 is right here, and notice 120 is the main angle. The bottom angles, when you go from 0, these are the main angles that you're working with. So from 0 to 10, to 120 to 30 to 40 to 50 to 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. All right? And then at the top of that, we see 60 again. Now, this is telling us that this angle 120 is greater than 90, right? But it's also indicating to us that the opposite of this angle is 60. So if you know how to create your 60 degree on this side, you going to use the same concept to create your 120 degree on the other side. So let us do that. 60 degree was created using point B, keeping the same radius again, same concept. We kept the same radius, and then we put it at B and we cut the semicircle. Now to get the 120, you're going to put your point at A. The opposite of B is A. So this is the midpoint. This is B, A. All right. Put your point at A. As said before, if it shifts, you need to ensure that you fix it back so that it has the same radius. All right. Put it at A now, and you're just going to scribe and cut the semicircle. When you cut the semicircle, you pretty much now have gotten the opposite of 60, which is 120. So you just need to adjust your ruler and draw your line. All right. Another base angle we can get now that can assist us to construct any other angle is our 90 degree angle. And the 90 degree angle is actually in the middle of these two. All right, it's the midpoint. There are two different ways we can get this 90 degree angle. I'm going to show you the first way and the second way. All right, so number one, you can use point A and B, same method, just like when you're constructing the perpendicular. Push it slightly past B, and then in the middle at the top here, you just scribe one side like that. Keep the same radius, put it at B, and then you scribe to cut it. And with that, you draw your straight line through and you get your 90. That's one method. All right. That's one method. Or method two is to bisect the angle. All right. How do we bisect this? We can use the point at 60 where the semicircle cuts as one point. and scribe an arc. And we can also use a point at 120 where it cuts a semicircle and scribe an arc. And where they meet, you draw your line through, and that's your 90-degree. So let's repeat method 1 again. Method 1, you put your point at A, ensure that it's open to pass B, so you don't draw within the semicircle. Above at the top, you scribe an arc. Place your point at B, and you scribe and cut. Where you cut, that's one method. And you draw your line through, and that's 90-degree. Or using the point at 60, scribe, and then the point at 120, scribe and cut, and you draw your line through, and that is also whichever method works. All right. But just know that any way you do it with this method is correct as long as you align your tools properly and you practice your methods. If you do it one time, it's not a guarantee that you'll get it right. But if you practice multiple times, you'll definitely get it right, even if you don't get it right the first. All right. And this is how we get our 90 degrees. So this is the concept of angles, concept of how you construct your 60, how you construct the opposite of 60, which is 120, and your 90-degree. What I want you to do is to look at all the angles on your protractor, and you need to make a mental note of the opposite. All right. So 60 and the opposite is 20. 30 and the opposite is 150. But you know that 150 can't be from 0 to 150 here. It has to be 0 to 150 on the other side. So this is how you'll be able to practice and to actually have the knowledge of what you need. For the next lesson, we're going to learn how to bisect an angle or a base angle to get another angle or to derive another angle. That's it for now. Have a good one.